Good day, everyone, and welcome back to our course, Introduction to English Literature at the Islamic University of Gaza. Today we move closer to the 20th century, to 21st century literature. We finished the Romantic movement, and I said in a way or another that the Romantic movement is not named after a particular monarch, a king or a queen, like we have the habit, or a political movement like the Commonwealth or a Restoration. This is the Victorian era, Victorian literature today. We'll speak about the Victorian novel. So moving from a name after a famous literary movement, the literature of the Romantic poets and novelists, to the Victorian era. The Victorian literature is named after Queen Victoria, who ruled England for more than 60 years, almost 65 years, ruling England. There's this joke about England, the queens of England always living more. So we have Elizabeth, we have Queen Victoria, and now Queen Elizabeth, who doesn't seem to want to die at all. And we have the names after them in a way. So the Victorian literature, in a way or another, there was a mixture, a mingling between, there was an overlap between Romanticism and the Victorian age, Victorian literature in terms of sensibility, in terms of features. So some Romantics even died sometime in the Victorian era, but again, their writing and their sensibility, the feature of their writing was closer to the teachings of Coleridge and William Wordsworth. And we've seen Jane Austen, for example, who is considered to be either or. Today we speak about the Victorian novel, the first part. But before we do that, let's do some talking about how life was then during the Victorian age. Remember, we said one reason why the Romantic poetry was composed in that particular way is that they were reacting to the corruption of the city and what was going on. So in the background, while the major names of Romantic literature were in the countryside, among nature, writing about natural and supernatural issues like, again, Coleridge and Wordsworth, the city, the Industrial Revolution, the industrialization of the society, the factories were killing the people in a way or another. The high class, the rich people were getting richer, remember, and the poor people were getting poorer and poorer. So poverty was everywhere, diseases were everywhere, corruption, sins, vices, whatever you call it, unemployment. The corruption was in many ways like everywhere in the society, in the church, in the palace, the royal family, and of course in the government, and in the institution. There were institutions that were supposed to take care of the poor. There are something called the work house or the work houses. We'll talk about them when we speak about Oliver. They were supposed to be giving food and shelter for the poor, but they were starving the poor. So, and again, the church was supposed to give, faith, guidance, belief to people, but they were stealing, they were corrupt themselves. The royal family was supposed to be protecting the people, but they were not, in a way or another, protecting them. So the monarchy was not as popular as it was 30, 40, like 3, 4 probably centuries ago. And we said that this started from the Commonwealth. So the monarchy started to lose privileges and power. They still had the money. They still had the symbolic role. The queen played huge parts, but still the monarchy was not famous. People did not like the monarchy like in the past. The social problems were everywhere. And most of these social problems are related again to the poor people that nobody wanted to care about. To the extent that many people say there were 2 Englands or 2 Londons. London that belongs to the rich people, that shows how many people were, how rich people were benefiting from imperialism and colonialism and the Industrial Revolution and factories. On the other hand, we had the very poor people, the orphans, the women, the disabled people, the sick people, the kids. They were deprived. They were not benefiting from the wealth of the British Empire. So poverty, unemployment, education, the education systems, the laborers, the working class, and most importantly, we'll talk about the double standards, how there are a set of rules, like there are rules for the rich people and rules for the poor people. All of this we'll see in the literature of this period. Okay. A very interesting thing I like to mention here all the time is the Indian Mutiny. Mutiny is something like Intifada, like we have here in Palestine, the Intifada, the first Intifada, the second Intifada, the third Intifada. It's like a revolution. There's something funny, interesting, and at the same time really racist and horrible about imperialism and colonialism. When you talk to some Israeli Zionists, they will always be defending Israel and say, but we did good to you. In a way, we're helping you. We're improving your lives in a particular way or another. Palestinians living inside Israel are the happiest and the best Arabs in the Middle East in a way or another. So always colonizers think that they're doing good job to the colonized. Yes, we're killing you, we're depriving you of everything, of your freedom and self-determination and free will and everything. But that's the argument. You could be a lot worse. We're bringing you technology, the train and everything. So in India, which was part of the British Empire, and Queen Victoria became the Empress of India during her reign, the people were surprised that there was like some unhappiness in India. People were unhappy with imperialism and colonialism. So it came as a surprise to so many people because, again, imperialists and colonizers always believe that we are doing a good job. We are doing a favor for you. When we go to India, to Africa, we're helping you. We're civilizing you. We're educating you. We're teaching you. We're just making you better people. And that's very funny because the same people refuse, because someone was joking on Twitter last night that if England, because England, there's a lot of trouble in England nowadays with Brexit and, so many, problems with the health system, education system. So a guy was saying that if you claim that imperialism was good for India and Africa, I think Africa should come and colonize us so they can improve our lives in a way or another. So this is significant. Again, the beliefs of the age were, the beliefs, the values, they were always declining and deteriorating. But the final blow, to science, to certain beliefs, especially to the church, came from Darwin. Are you familiar with Charles Darwin? Darwinism and Darwin. In his book, On the Origin of the Species, in which he speaks about the theory of evolution, how man evolved through time, through like millions and millions of years, how animals and birds and creatures evolve. And this is the argument here that man originally was an ape or a monkey, and then we evolved to become human beings because survival is for the fittest. This is a blow because all people believe that, according to the church, God created the world and God created man in his image. So how come you're saying so? And he has some proof and evidence that many people lost faith totally in church. This is also significant. So the major novelists of this age, all this will be reflected in a way or another here in the literature, because literature in a way mirrors life, criticizes life. It's a tool of criticism and also empowers certain people and particular genders. So we have Charles Dickens, George Eliot, the three Bronte sisters. It didn't work with me. There should be, this letter, strange, not English, Bronte. The three Bronte sisters, three sisters writing novels. Thomas Hardy are the most famous novelists. So how many females and how many males, how many men and how many women do we have?
2.
1, 2, and here 3, and 3. So 3 men and 3 women? Yeah. Are you sure?
No.
1. Thank you very much. George Eliot is a woman. Why? Because George. A pen name, yeah, pseudonym, a pen name. Why would someone write under a pen name, a different name? Why would a woman write under the name of a man? It's like someone, like واحدة اسمها مثلا عطا ولا جمعة مثلا. Like, why would someone change, especially a woman? Yeah, please.
To be appreciated for her words and not be judged because of her.
Thank you. So people like a woman, what is a woman going to be writing about? Kitchen stuff, how to make sandwiches, which is a very anti-feminist notion. So she takes this out of the context. You read the book as if it's written by a man. So the idea that women couldn't write like men was still there in the Victorian age. But remember what Virginia Woolf said about Afra Ben. Because she started this. She showed the women that they should write no matter what. The problem here is that many of those novelists were publishing their stories in newspapers, in chapters. So every week, 2 or 3 chapters. This is called serialization, was in serials. So the publishers wanted to sell as many copies as possible, and readers wanted to read good things. And the publishers again wanted to make money. So if people don't want to read for women, maybe the publishers are not going to be encouraged. That's why sometimes we have to have like really dedicated publishers who take care of what we call the subclass or the outsiders. So they give them a chance to write. Okay? But we'll see next class what George Eliot. George Eliot is one of the most significant female authors of all time. What she did was an amazing job because she exposed the society as hypocrite or hypocritical, because people claim that women can't write. But when she wrote using a pen name of a man, like many people's critics who were mainly men, like, yeah, this is really good writing. Only men can write like this in a way or another. Look at this. Interesting. I don't think women can write stuff like this. And then all of a sudden she turns out to be a woman. A slap on the face of those critics, telling them, you're judging us not by you're not appreciating our text. You're just, okay, a woman, I don't think she's going to write good stuff. And nowadays, by the way, some of the most important famous women, like women in poetry and in novel and prose, are women. Some of the most important writers are women, like J.K. Rowling, like Agatha Christie, like other contemporary poets we might mention later on. Yes.
When did her identity release?
It was released sometime during her career.
Did she do it or someone?
We'll talk about this later on. Yeah.
But in her age, a lot of women like Mary Shelley after Ben started to write. Why didn't she just follow her?
That is an interesting question. We'll see about that. But again, not all women were lucky or had support from other people around them. Okay, so some women didn't have the right parents, right, to help her, or the right connections with publishers, or so we'll see how that came about. Today we talk about Dickens and Hardy. Dickens and Hardy are the most important men novelists of all time. Especially Dickens here. He's always mentioned next to the name of Shakespeare. Like when people speak about, famous English writers, they say Dickens and Shakespeare. And thanks to him, we have so many words in the English dictionary and the Oxford Dictionary because they were taken from Dickens. So in terms of themes, the majority of works here, literary works, were about, again, society, social classes, social division, about poverty, about the poor class, about the working class, about the social problems, about criticizing the system, criticizing the society, criticizing the institution. More or less, literature moved from the nature, the countryside of the Romantics, to the city itself to expose its ills and problems. So his major concerns were social. Major concerns and themes were social themes. But Dickens had an interesting range. He started from comedy, journalism, social issues, to psychological issues, to autobiographical, to historical and political themes. In my opinion, Dickens is generally a positive author. He has this optimism about him. Generally, his novels end happily, despite what happens, despite the struggle and the suffering of some people and the pain and the mistreatment. Generally, people end happily, like getting what they want, becoming rich, realizing, getting married. We'll see about this. So his first successful novel was the Pickwick Papers, which is again generally described as a comedy, humorous comedy. He wanted to write humorous stuff so people would laugh, and many people found this very, very funny, and they loved it, and he had to write more and more. But Oliver Twist is again one of his most famous works. It's a novel about a little boy. His name is Oliver. He's born by a mother who comes to one of the workhouses or one of the places that take care of the poor. She gives birth to Oliver. Nobody knows who she is. She doesn't say, and she dies. So we don't know who his father is. He's taken by the church, and they pay some people money to take care of him. But because of the corruption, because of the selfishness of the people, because they steal, because nobody was dedicated, was doing a good job, they were mistreating him. They were starving him. They weren't even giving him and all other kids the bare minimum of food. In one instance, this is one of the famous lines in literature. Oliver is urged by his friends to go and ask for more food, because the kids go to bed hungry. So there was one big guy saying, okay, if I don't eat enough tonight, I will eat the boy next to me. And he said, oh my God, the boy was like, I don't want to be eaten. And they had this, they tossed a coin or something, and it fell on Oliver, and Oliver goes to ask for more, and he, please, sir, I want some more. And the man was like, what? Why would you ask, right? Because we're giving you enough. This is more than enough. You're asking for more after you've eaten the supper, the food we provide you. He says, what? And this what is, it's not like what, say again. Like what? Say again, sorry. It's like, what the hell? I'm going to kill you. And Oliver, poor Oliver, innocent Oliver, says again, please, I want some more. And he was beaten for this. He was abused. He was given to a man to take care, to teach him some craft, coffin making. And then he was abused again, and he had to run away from this place to London. Remember London, the capital of the world, the most important city, where the city of the Victorian dream, like the American dream, where you go, where you work, where you become rich. So he goes there, but again, a member of a gang takes him to the den, to their place. He doesn't know what's going on because he's innocent. They teach him how to rob people, to be a thief, to pickpocket. But Oliver is innocent. He can't be corrupted. So, unlike many people who would turn into criminals, he doesn't. He was arrested. Some people take care of him. And then the gang kidnap him again. They take him to help them rob a house. He was shot and injured. And then his identity is because. So, a lot of suffering and mistreatment and horrible, horrible problems he goes through. And the corruption of the state, the church, the government, everybody is corrupt. Almost everybody. At the end of the story, it ends happily ever after. Yes, there is someone who dies. Nancy dies a horrible death. But eventually the main character is happy. He knows who his father was or his mother was. And it turns out that his father left him some inheritance, some money. So he becomes rich. So no matter what happens, at the end of the day, you're going to be
transferred to a movie.
Yeah. I think there are like 3 movies Oliver Twist. You can they are available on YouTube, and I think they're making a new one nowadays. Beautiful movie. But remember, the movie is never as good as the book.
It has more details.
Yeah, the details, the description, the language. So it's good to watch the movies, but it's always better to do this. So despite the tough circumstances, Oliver finds out who he is, becomes rich, and the story ends happily, at least for this. Now, speaking about kids is something new at that time. Kids being the main characters, right, is new. Like the having this issue, the theme, the story being about the kids, only kids, his life, how he thinks, what he does, what happens to him, what people do to him. Like, this is a shift from, the experiences of adults and high-class people to the kids. And this was what Dickens would usually do. And it happens again in Nicholas Nickleby, another story about a little kid, Nicholas, who suffers a lot, who suffers terribly at school. So the education system is also criticized. Now, again, this is about the sufferings of the kids, and Dickens wanted to criticize the church and the education system and all the laws of the Victorian age. But also, most importantly, London was always attacked, viciously attacked by Dickens. And many people were not happy with Dickens because many people thought that the novel should belong to the high class, and the high class people should read, things to make them feel good about themselves, right? But you're writing about poverty. The description, he describes London at night, the narrow, dark alleys of London, and the crimes and the criminals and the rats and the mud and the corruption and the sewage. Whew. Like, he takes you to London in the late 19th or mid-19th century. You live there. So many people are like, I don't want to read about poor people. I don't want to read about crime and criminal. I want to just to live in my bubble, a happy life. So they
don't want to feel guilty.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. So why are you, assuming that some rich people, like really, really rich people, feel guilt about being too rich? So his novels often tell stories about the victims, the poor, the children, in order to engage the readers in the Victorian age and its major problems. Now, in David Copperfield, there are two novels that have what we call autobiographical elements. Autobiography? What's biography? Biography. Graph, graph, when you graphic, like telegram.
I know the definitions, but I don't know which
Okay.
one is for the
Okay.
It's one that it's a story written about the writer, and the other is about another person.
Okay, now easy to tell. Auto, it's like the car, automatic. Automobile, right? So automatic, that moves by itself in a way. Automated. So autobiography, it's a biography I write about myself. If I write a book about myself, it's an autobiography. If I write a book about you, one of you, it's a biography. The Sira Datiya. So, two novels, David Copperfield and Great Expectations, contain autobiographical elements. About his childhood, about his success, about his suffering as a kid, his very troubled early life, childhood, and how he became successful and rich eventually. So in David Copperfield, considered to be one of the most positive of Dickens' novels. Why positive? Because we have a story about a person who starts poor, struggles, works hard, becomes rich, achieves the Victorian dream. So this is very positive. Although all his books end positively in a way and another. Many Victorians admired such books because this is the typical Victorian person, David. He is rich, he marries, and there is a general sense of happiness at the end of the book. Why is this called an autobiographical, or at least partly autobiographical? Because there are, in a way or another, references to his own life as a kid, as a child. Okay? So partly it tells about Dickens' life itself. Again, Great Expectations also has autobiographical elements. However, the positive attitude, atmosphere, tone of David Copperfield is not available in Great Expectations. Look at the title. The title says Great Expectations. Like, we expect great things to happen, right? He promises us a lot, but no great things happen in the book. It's ironic, thank you. Even the title itself is ironic. Why? Because no great things happen.
Disappointment, frustration.
Disappointment, despair. And many people believe that this is a change in his attitude, his writing style itself. Like he was changing from positive to dark, etc. Because the age, the Victorian age itself started with, with hopes of a better life for everyone. Like the poor people, women, the working class benefiting from the wealth coming from, the colonies. But now, again, the rich were getting richer and the poor were getting poorer. So there was disappointment and disillusionment in his life. Hard Times, I love Hard Times. It's one of my most favorite novels. Now, Hard Times is about generally like two things. About the industrial revolution, the industrial society, the factories, the working class, the laborers. He takes us in a journey to show us the unions, the laborers, how deprived they were. They had no rights, they were really poor, they couldn't achieve the slightest of dreams. They can't even, sometimes I think the man there couldn't marry the woman he loved. Only because he's a poor man, because he can't afford it in a way or another, because the society is not helping, because there are no regulations to give the basic human rights and the basic decent life to the working class. But also in this society, there is an attack on the educational system. Dickens is exposing the educational system as horrible, because it's mainly based on facts. In one character, the famous Mr. Gradgrind, I think it's in the dictionary. The word Gradgrind describes a man who doesn't believe in imagination and fancy, who only believes in facts, science. Please try to read. So I'll post some extracts from this for extra reading on Facebook. Some of the most interesting stuff can be found here. He says he gets into a classroom and he starts asking people to define a horse. What is a horse? There's a student, a girl who says, "What's a student number 20?" So he even doesn't want to give her, what's your name? She says, "My name is Sissy." He says, "Sissy? Sissy is not a name. Call yourself Cecilia." Because Sissy is a musical. It's there are also movies here. So he says, "Facts, facts, facts. Teach these boys and girls nothing but facts. Plant nothing else and root everything else. This is the principle on which I bring up my children, and this is the principle on which I want you to bring up these children. Facts, sir. Stick to facts, sir." And because the school does not help the students, does not offer them, a chance for good education, for imagination, for creativity, they always will find a way where outside. In the circus, because there's a circus in the book which symbolizes what? Fancy and imagination. And in a very ironic situation here, when he was leaving the school, he was proud of himself that he's building the generation, a good generation for the future. He finds his two kids looking at the circus, peeking somewhere between the tent and looking at the circus people. And he was very furious, very angry, because just the moment he was saying, "I'm bringing up my kids on facts and nothing but facts," and seemingly even his kids are not happy with his philosophy. And so Hard Times is criticizing both the Industrial Revolution, the unions, the situations of the working class, and of course the educational system, in which again he is representing another pessimistic, dark, negative image of the society. So he's changing in a way or another. Now, A Tale of Two Cities. Do you know A Tale of Two Cities? Have you ever heard about A Tale of Two Cities? Okay, let me read you something from Hard Times. I think I have it here. And also something from A Tale of Two Cities. So this is a quote, really interesting. Could someone please read? So this is Mr. Gradgrind talking to the teacher. The teacher's name is Mr. Child. Okay, Asil?
Now, what I want is facts. Teach these boys and
Now I want you to pretend like Mr. Gradgrind, like you're, stiff person, a person who doesn't believe in imagination, a person who is only dedicated to facts.
Okay.
Like a horrible teacher.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what I want is facts. Teach these boys and girls nothing but facts. Facts alone are wanted in life. Plant nothing else and root out everything else. You can only form the minds of the reasoning animals upon facts.
The cats are like reasoning animals. Animals that think and reason. That's the negative thing, because they don't believe in children. Yeah.
You can only form the minds of reasoning animals upon facts. Nothing else will ever be of any service to them. This is the principle on which I bring up my own children, and this is what the principle on which I bring up these children. Stick to facts, sir.
You sound like a good teacher. I want someone to sound like a horrible teacher. Like no imagination, no nothing, no fun, no fancy, no joking, no fooling around, all facts. Yeah? You can't be, okay, let's see.
Now what I want is facts. Teach these boys and girls nothing but facts. Facts alone are wanted in life. Plant nothing else, and root out everything else. You can only form the minds of reasoning animals upon facts. Nothing else will ever be of any service to them.
Service.
This is the principle on which I bring up my own children, and this is the principle on which I bring up these children.
Stick to facts, says. Seems no one can act like a bad person, which is good. There's this advice someone gave to his kid. The kid guy, I read this on the comment section on YouTube. It's horrible. There is racism and bigotry everywhere there, but sometimes you will find good stuff. So he says, I went to my dad and I asked him for advice because I wanted to play the role of a bad person, a bad character. And his father gave him the wisest of all advice. He told him, son, a bad person doesn't know that he's a bad person. A bad person doesn't know that he is a bad person. So how would you act? So you can't act like a bad person because you think you're doing a good job. He thinks he's doing a good job. Do you want to read? Okay, the next one.
No,
Go on. Extract. It is, part of it is in the book, not all of it. So now, A Tale of Two Cities is also a very famous, like probably one of the most famous ever. Even the title, A Tale of Two Cities. And I want you to go to Google today when you go home, if you have electricity and internet connection, sorry. And Google, use inverted commas to Google A Tale of, and don't complete it, and use it in between inverted commas. So you look for the exact wording.
Yes.
And you will find hundreds and thousands of articles and references, not to A Tale of Two Cities, to everything. So I was just telling the other group that there's a huge dispute between the pizza in New York and the pizza in Chicago. So there's a fight. These people hate these people's pizza and vice versa. So I'm sure there must have been someone somewhere who wrote A Tale of Two Pizzas, A Tale of Two Teachers, A Tale of Two Wars, A Tale of Two Students, A Tale of Two something very famous. And this is the opening part of the novel A Tale of Two Cities. One of, again, the most memorable. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom. It was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven. We were all going direct to the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received for good or for evil in the superlative degree of comparison only. The worst, the best. You want to read?
What is he comparing? What is he talking about?
A Tale of Two Cities, interesting.
Victorian
We don't have much time to read, but go home, read this. Enjoy these. If you don't want to read Dickens because you're still young, like freshmen here, or women, watch the movie. But again, watching the movie is never like reading the book. If you want to do something, at least read famous quotes by Dickens. You will love him. So, A Tale of Two Cities is about the French Revolution. The two cities are London and
France.
Paris. And Paris. Before and during the French Revolution. This is history. So this is a historical novel in a way. Political historical novel. That's the range of novels he writes about Dickens. Okay? So the two cities are London and Paris. Final text here is A Christmas Carol. This was also made into cartoon and movie and a movie. Carol means song. It shows how the British people were celebrating Christmas then. For many people, these are more interesting than history books because in a very interesting, creative way, they take you back to 100 years, 200 years in the past. How the French Revolution came about in fiction and how people celebrated Christmas. So again, this is the range from comedy to social to historical to journalistic styles all the time. And he's also often associated with Shakespeare. So that's Dickens. Generally, Dickens end happily. There's a positive tone here and there, but sometime later, he changed into a darker, more pessimistic attitude in a way or another. On the other hand, Thomas Hardy, even his name suggests that, yeah, right, is the very opposite. This man is dark, but he's considered to be a late Victorian novel. And it's very interesting because he died sometime around I think 1928. So he lived like almost 3 decades in the 19th century, but he's still, because of his themes and writing, a Victorian figure or a late Victorian figure. He wrote poetry, wonderful poetry. He also wrote short stories, and he was also a novelist. Now, the book says here that many of his books were burnt because he was offending people. People didn't like his writing, the way he was exposing the evil in the society, the darkness in the society, without giving hope. So Dickens would be attacking all the institutions, but at the end he would be telling us that if you work hard, it's going to end up good for you. But here, no matter how much you work, how hard you work, because you are poor, because you are a woman, because you are a working class person, you will not be able to succeed, because this is a capitalist society in which, again, only the rich get richer, the poor have no chance. So the darkness, the tone, and the vision of his novels are tragic and dark. We'll take examples and see how things go. So he exposes these societies about the older truths, the conflict between the tradition and the modern, the conflict between the older generation, the younger generation, between men and women, and how women were struggling, were suffering. Many books, listen, in Dickens, people say, Oliver was a tool or a feather in the wind. Like fate was controlling his life. And also some people say fate and destiny play a major role in the destruction of characters. Fate. But I don't like to say fate because this is an unpoetic answer. Yes, fate plays a role, but the society, if the society is, you can't say the society is destroying somebody's life. Yeah, but it's his fate. If you're surrendering to fate, it means you don't want to change. You don't want to criticize. You don't want for people, for others, for institutions to change. So the poor people die, starve to death, and it's their fate. What should we do? We have no choice. So, for example, Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Very, very sad story about a little girl named Tess, whom the author describes as a pure woman. Now her parents, poor family, poor parents, send her to work for a rich family because they think they are related. So they are D'Urbervilles and the other family is like Dibbyfield or something. So someone tells him, the father, that you are related. So, okay, let's send our daughter, maybe she will get rich, we will get rich in a way or another. But because she's a poor woman, a little innocent, pure woman, she is attacked by Alec, the rich man. She is raped. She gets pregnant. She has a baby, names the baby Sorrow, and the baby passes away. The baby dies. So sad, right? So destructive. What happens to the man? Nothing, because he's a rich man. He's a rich man. Then she falls in love with someone named Angel, ironically, who later on leaves her because she tells him her past. She gets angry. She goes back to Alec, and she takes revenge. She kills him. Now, because she kills him, the society wakes up. Wait a minute, somebody committed a crime here. Nobody came after the rapist, but everyone was after Tess. Now, she's arrested. When Angel comes to her, it was too late. She was arrested, and she was executed. And the novel ends with a famous description, the famous paragraph beginning with, "Justice was done." Which is irony. Why is this irony? Why is it irony? Yeah.
Because when the first man, Alec, raped her, they didn't punish him, and when she killed the angel, they punished her.
In a way, we're not justifying death, but in a way, she's defending herself. She's taking justice into her own hand because the society has failed her. Why? Because she's poor. Why? Because she's a woman. When a woman commits a crime, justice was done. Is ironic because this is not justice. Justice is not allowing this to happen. Not allowing rich people to get away with murder. Okay, some people will say, but this is one novel. Let's see another example. The other example is The Mayor of Casterbridge, in which this man, by the way, most of these were made into movies, if not all of them. You can watch them on YouTube. So, that's Henchard, this man from The Mayor of Casterbridge. Listen to me, this is a really interesting story. In the opening story, he was working with his wife and daughter, and he finds a fair, like a market or an exhibition. He gets drunk, and all of a sudden he says, why don't people sell their wives? Why don't people, when they get bored or tired of their wives, why don't people sell their wives? Just sell your wife. And his wife was like, shut up, what the hell are you saying? Don't talk about this. What are you doing? You did this before. Don't. This is not a matter to kid about, to joke about. And he goes, I'm serious. I want to sell my wife. £5 for my wife. Give me £5 and I'll give you my wife. And the wife was like, if you take the money, I will never come back to you. He says, I'm serious and I'll give you my daughter as bonus. Take the daughter as bonus. £5 for my wife. And actually someone pays the money. Takes the wife and the kid, keeps drinking, he wakes up, he doesn't find them. He spends the whole novel, he becomes rich, successful, he rises up, he becomes the mayor of Casterbridge. And because this is hard, if this is Dickens, he will eventually in a way or another find them. But because this is Thomas Hardy, can he have them back? No. He actually finds them, but I think the wife dies and also the daughter dies. This is Thomas Hardy. The scene, the selling scene, if you Google the selling scene from the Mayor of Casterbridge, you will find it online. Very interesting read. Really, really interesting stuff. And again, it shows how the women were always, victims of male stupidity, not only violence. And finally, Thomas Hardy's Jude the Obscure. Jude is the name of a man, not a woman. Maybe this is going to be different. Maybe this is going to be optimistic a little bit. Happy ending. Let's see Thomas Hardy. So Jude the Obscure is about a struggling working class person named Jude. His only crime is that he has ambition. But not ambition like Macbeth. He doesn't kill anybody. He just wants to join university, Christminster, in which he refers to Oxford University. But he's poor. He doesn't have enough money. Only if you have money you go to university. You pay a lot of money. Only the elite, the rich people. Can he go? No. Because the poor will remain poor for the rest of his life. He belongs to the the working class. He has this complex relationship with Sue. He loves Sue. He's in love with her. But again, because this is hard, he never marries her. Okay? So he marries someone else. At the end of the story, both the children of both Sue and Jude commit suicide. Okay? Very dark. There's a great despair and disappointment in the values of the Victorian age. So the struggle between ambition and human weakness makes this Hardy's most tragically disturbing novel. Yes, I like your reaction. People think this is a disturbing novel. Like, come on, it's too much. But believe me, many people would love to read Hardy more than Dickens, because we like to be shaken. We like to, come face to face to experience other people's suffering. So we compare, we learn, and everything. So he exposes, and this is significant, Hardy exposes the successful society that keeps outsider. And are you an outsider? Out. You can never be successful. You can never rise. You should remain in your position as poor. Who are the outsiders? Women. Ambitious working class men and other, subclass people who are not originally born to rich parents and rich families. So these two people Dickens and Hardy belong to the Victorian age. Yes, Dickens is an early Victorian writer, and Hardy is a late Victorian writer. But remember, when we say the writer is the product of the society, it's not accurate, because we are also the product of our parents' experiences, education, learning, friends, attitudes, philosophies, religious background, ideological background, political background, what books we read, what experiences we have. And then we write, we react in a way or another differently. So we'll stop here. Thank you very much. And next class we'll speak about the women novelists of the Victorian age, starting with George Eliot. Thank you very much.